My name is Willow Montgomery. I am 26 years old. For 2 years, my mother thought I was pouring lattes for minimum wage. Today, she is sitting across from me in a mahogany-paneled boardroom on the 40th floor of an Atlanta high-rise, begging for a salary. I turn the deadbolt on the heavy oak door. The lock clicks into place. I slide a thick black binder across the polished table. Her eyes track the leather, confused, searching for the person in charge. She has no idea the person in charge is the daughter she threw away. Before we get to what is inside that binder, if this story connects with you, take a second to like and subscribe to Eva Tells Stories. And tell me in the comments, how old were you when you realized your family was toxic? Let me take you back 2 years. May in Georgia. The kind of heat that presses against your chest and makes the air shimmer above the asphalt. I am sitting in a stadium with 2,000 other graduates, wearing a black polyester gown that clings to my shoulders. My name is 20 minutes away from being called. I keep turning my head, scanning the bleachers. Section 4, row G. I bought the tickets 6 months ago. I know exactly where they are supposed to be. 2 empty metal folding chairs baking in the sun. All around me, parents are holding up handmade signs and blowing air horns. My phone vibrates against my leg. I slide it out of my pocket, shielding the screen from the glare. It is a text from my mother, Barbara. 6 words. At the Magnolia Retreat with Savannah. You will survive, Willow. I read the text 3 times. The letters blur, but I force them into focus. The Magnolia Retreat. A luxury spa in Buckhead. She chose cucumber water and hot stones over watching her eldest daughter become the first person in our family to earn a college degree. I put the phone back in my pocket. I do not cry. I march across that stage, take my diploma, and drive my beat-up Honda Civic back to our house in Marietta in silence. The house smells like expensive vanilla candles and takeout sushi. Barbara is sitting on the living room sofa, wearing a plush white robe with the Magnolia Retreat logo stitched on the breast pocket. Savannah, my younger sister by 2 years, is stretched out on the recliner, inspecting a fresh set of pearl-colored acrylic nails. The television is playing a reality show. Nobody looks up when the front door opens. You missed it, I say. I keep my voice level. Barbara turns a page in her magazine. Oh, Willow, please do not start. Savannah had a terrible week. Preston was ignoring her texts and her skin was breaking out. She needed a mental health day. It was my graduation. Barbara sighs. She sets the magazine down, looking at me the way you look at a telemarketer who will not take a hint. It is just a piece of paper, sweetheart. Let us be realistic. You are not exactly corporate material. You will never amount to anything anyway. So why make a whole production out of it? Savannah snickers from the recliner. She does not even look away from her phone. Her acrylic nail taps rhythmically against the screen. I stand in the hallway holding my diploma in a cheap cardboard folder. The air conditioning hums. My mother does not yell. She does not throw things. She uses apathy, a weapon designed to make me feel so small I vanish entirely. She wants me to argue, to beg for her approval, to play my assigned role in her house. I am supposed to be the failure, so Savannah can be the golden child. I look at the woman who raised me. The vanilla scent makes my stomach turn. I realize something in that moment. I cannot outscream her. I cannot force her to care. But I can leave. I walk to my bedroom and pull a duffel bag from the closet. I have a plan. I spent 3 years waiting tables at a diner on Highway 41, hiding tips in a jar, eventually depositing $5,000 into a joint savings account my mother set up for me when I was 16. It is enough for a security deposit on a cheap studio apartment in the city. Enough to vanish. I zip the bag shut. The next morning, I drive to the bank to pull the cash. I hand the teller my ID, slide the withdrawal slip under the glass, and wait for the fresh bills that will buy my freedom. The teller types on her keyboard. She pauses. She types again, her brow furrowing. Then she looks up at me with an expression that makes the blood drain from my face. The teller slides the withdrawal slip back under the glass. I am sorry, Miss Montgomery. There are insufficient funds in this account. My hands go cold against the faux wood counter. I lean closer. That is impossible. I have $5,000 in there. I checked the balance last week. The teller rotates her monitor just enough for me to see the screen. 3 days ago, a transfer of $4,980 was made. The account is empty. Only 2 people have access to this account. The teller does not need to explain. The math does the explaining for me. 3 days ago, the exact day my mother and sister spent at the Magnolia Retreat. My mother did not just skip my graduation. She used the money I earned waiting tables until midnight to finance her absence. I drive back to Marietta in a blur. The steering wheel feels sticky under my palms. I do not kick the front door open. I do not shout. I find Barbara in the kitchen, casually arranging a vase of fresh-cut hydrangeas. Savannah is nowhere to be seen. "You drained my account," I say. Barbara does not flinch. She snaps a dead leaf off a stem. "You were living under my roof rent-free, Willow. Consider it back rent." Savannah needed a pick-me-up. She has a very important engagement party to plan. We all have to make sacrifices for the family. I stare at the woman who birthed me. The casual theft, the sheer entitlement. She took my survival fund and turned it into hot stones and cucumber water. I turn around and walk straight to my bedroom. I throw clothes into trash bags. I grab my textbooks, my cheap laptop, my winter coat. I strip my life down to what can fit in the trunk of a Honda Civic. I start hauling the bags out to the driveway. I make 3 trips. Barbara does not try to stop me. She watches from the porch, holding a glass of iced tea, looking mildly inconvenienced by the noise. I walk back into the house for the final time to grab my phone charger from the kitchen counter. Next to the outlet sits the stainless steel trash can. I step on the pedal to toss a wadded-up receipt. Near the bottom, wedged under coffee grounds and an empty yogurt container, I spot a heavy cream-colored envelope. The edge catches my eye because it bears a silver-embossed logo, a law firm in downtown Atlanta. My name is typed clearly across the front, Willow Montgomery, personal and confidential. The seal is broken, but the letter inside remains folded. My mother threw it away. I pull the envelope out, brush off the coffee grounds, and slide it into my back pocket. I do not confront Barbara. The time for arguments passed when she stole my savings. I walk out the front door, start the Honda, and pull out of the driveway without checking the rearview mirror. 2 hours later, I am sitting in the leasing office of a modest apartment complex in East Atlanta. I found the listing online. $800 a month. A stretch, but manageable if I pick up double shifts at a new diner. I hand the leasing agent, a tired-looking man named Greg, my application and a $40 background check fee I scraped together from the change jar in my car cup holder. Greg runs the application. He looks at his computer screen. He sighs and sets his pen down. "I am sorry, Willow. I cannot approve this." "Why not?" I ask. "I have a clean record. I have steady employment history." "It is your credit score," Greg says softly. "You are sitting at a 412. You have 3 accounts in collections, 2 high-limit credit cards maxed out, and a personal loan defaulted 6 months ago. The debt is over $20,000. The leasing office seems to tilt. The fluorescent lights buzz louder. "I do not have a credit card," I say. My voice sounds hollow, like it is coming from someone else. I have never taken out a loan. Greg turns his monitor around. The credit report is a graveyard of red text. A Platinum Rewards card opened 18 months ago, a retail card from a luxury department store, a personal line of credit, all bearing my name, my social security number, all tied to the Marietta address. And then I see the most recent charge on the Platinum card, flagged for missing its minimum payment 3 days ago. The Magnolia Retreat, $2,000. The realization hits me with physical force. Barbara did not just steal my $5,000 savings account. She committed federal identity theft. She used my Social Security number, likely lifted from old tax documents, to fund Savannah's designer lifestyle. She bought the clothes, the spa days, the engagement party deposits, all under my name. She ruined my financial future before it even started, tethering me to her debt so I could never leave. I walk out of the leasing office into the Georgia dusk. I have no money. I have no credit. I have nowhere to go. I drive to a Walmart parking lot near the interstate. It is 11 at night. The lot is mostly empty, bathed in harsh orange light from the street lamps. I recline the driver's seat as far back as it will go. I lock the doors. The engine cools, making ticking sounds in the quiet. The reality of homelessness settles over me like a heavy blanket. I am 24 years old, a college graduate, sleeping in a car because the woman who was supposed to protect me sold my identity to pamper her favorite child. I reach into my back pocket, the cream-colored envelope, the one I pulled from the trash. I turn on the dome light. I unfold the thick, expensive paper. The letterhead reads, Richard Sterling, Estate and Trust Law. Dear Ms. Montgomery, I have attempted to reach you at your primary residence several times over the past month. As you have recently graduated from university, the stipulations of the Vivian Montgomery Revocable Trust have now been met. Please contact my office immediately to arrange the transfer of assets left to you by your late aunt. The letter is dated 3 weeks ago. Barbara intercepted the previous notices. She knew about this. She was trying to run out the clock or hide the existence of the trust entirely. Aunt Vivian, my father's sister, the only person in my family who ever saw Barbara for what she truly was. Vivian died 5 years ago. I thought she left everything to charity. I read the letter again under the dim yellow light of my car ceiling. I do not sleep that night. I watch the sun come up over the highway, casting long shadows across the asphalt. I drive to a gas station, wash my face in the sink, put on the one professional blouse I packed, and use my last $5 to buy a cup of coffee and park in a public garage downtown. At 9 in the morning, I walk through the glass doors of Richard Sterling's law office. The receptionist asks if I have an appointment. I hand her the crumpled, coffee-stained letter. I tell her I am Willow Montgomery and I need to see him right now. 10 minutes later, I am sitting in a leather chair across from a man who looks exactly like a high-powered estate attorney should. Silver hair, sharp suit, a desk clear of any clutter. He looks at me, taking in the wrinkled blouse, the dark circles under my eyes, the sheer exhaustion radiating from my posture. Your mother has been telling me you moved out of state, Richard says quietly. She claims she had no way to contact you. My mother is a liar, I reply. My voice does not shake. Richard nods slowly. He opens a thick file on his desk. Your Aunt Vivian was a very astute woman, Willow. She built a considerable portfolio in commercial real estate before she passed. She knew Barbara's spending habits. She knew the favoritism shown to your sister. Vivian anticipated that your mother would try to absorb any inheritance left to you. He slides a legal document across the desk. So, Vivian set up a blind trust. It was legally inaccessible to anyone, including yourself, until you produced proof of a college degree. She wanted you to have the maturity to handle it, and she wanted it shielded from Barbara's grasp. Richard leans forward, folding his hands over the file. The trust contains a liquid cash distribution of $250,000 intended as seed money. Additionally, it contains the legal framework for a commercial real estate holding company, fully registered and ready for activation under your name. $250,000. The number hangs in the quiet office. 12 hours ago, I was calculating how many meals I could skip to save gas money. Now, a man in a tailored suit is offering me $250,000. But there is a condition, Richard says. He pulls a smaller, sealed envelope from the file. Vivian left this for you. She explicitly instructed me that you must read it before any funds are released. I take the envelope. The paper is crisp. I break the seal. Inside, the handwriting is sharp, familiar. The ghost of Aunt Vivian speaking from beyond the grave. My dear Willow, if you are reading this, you survived her. You survived the neglect and the cruelty. I leave this money to you not to buy an escape, but to build an empire. Barbara respects nothing but a tailored suit and a signed check. Do not speak to her again until you can wear one and cash the other. Let her think she broke you until you are too big to be broken. The tears I refuse to shed in the driveway finally fall. Not from sadness, from validation. Someone saw me. Someone knew the truth. I look up at Richard. Where do I sign? I take the silver pen Richard holds out. The metal is cool and heavy against my skin. I sign my name on the dotted line of the trust transfer document. The scratch of the nib against the thick parchment sounds like a match striking in a quiet room. Richard reviews the signature, closes the folder, and opens his top desk drawer. He places a heavy brass key on the polished mahogany surface and slides it toward me. It stops right next to the signed contract. The teeth of the key are worn, carrying the dull shine of old metal. Your aunt secured a small commercial space in Midtown before her health declined, Richard says. The lease is fully paid for the next 10 years. She called it your incubator. She knew you would need a place to plan where your mother could never find you. I pick up the brass key. It feels like an anchor. For the past 48 hours, I have been drifting in a state of freefall, stripped of my savings, my credit, and my family. Now, I have a war room. I walk into that Midtown office 3 hours later. The air inside smells like stale carpet and trapped dust, but the afternoon light pours through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the empty floor space. I stand in the center of the room and map out my survival. First, I secure my perimeter. I use $5,000 of the seed money to retain a high-end credit attorney downtown. We pull every statement from the fraudulent platinum cards Barbara opened in my name. My lawyer advises filing a police report immediately to clear the debt and press criminal charges against my mother. I look at the stack of evidence. IP addresses tracing the online applications to the router in Marietta. Delivery confirmation signatures bearing Barbara's handwriting. The $2,000 charge for the Magnolia retreat. I instruct my attorney to draft the fraud affidavits, lock down my Social Security number, and dispute the active collections. But I forbid him from contacting the authorities. We do not press charges. Not yet. Sending Barbara to jail right now allows her to play the victim. She would cry to her country club friends about an ungrateful daughter trying to ruin her life over a misunderstanding. She would twist the narrative and feed her own martyrdom. I need her to feel powerful, safe, and entirely complacent until the exact moment she is trapped. I buy a thick black leather binder. I place the certified bank statements, the credit reports, and the proof of federal wire fraud inside the plastic sleeves. I lock the binder in the bottom drawer of the heavy oak desk I buy for the Midtown office. The armory is officially open. Next, I deploy the capital. $250,000 is a fortune to a waitress sleeping in a Honda Civic, but it is a rounding error in the world of commercial real estate. I cannot buy skyscrapers. I do not try to. Instead, I leverage the current market through strategic arbitrage. The Atlanta tech sector is experiencing an unprecedented boom, but legacy corporate landlords are struggling to fill large, outdated floor plans. Companies do not want empty concrete shells anymore. They want turnkey, luxury environments. I register a limited liability company under the name WM Elite. The corporate footprint is strictly business to business. The website features sleek, minimalist graphics and standard corporate rhetoric. My name is listed only as the founder and CEO. There are no public photographs of my face. WM Elite operates as a faceless, high-tier entity. I use Aunt Vivian's funds to sign long-term master leases on distressed commercial floors in premium zip codes. I bring in contractors to renovate the tired spaces into ultra-luxury corporate suites. I install imported espresso bars, contract private chefs for the communal kitchens, and upgrade the tech infrastructure to fiber optic speeds. Then I sublease these modernized elite suites to wealthy tech startups and private equity firms for a substantial premium. I do not own the steel and glass buildings. I own the highly lucrative ecosystem operating inside them. The profit margins are staggering. For 18 months, I do not sleep more than 4 hours a night. I wear out the soles of my shoes walking through active construction sites in a hard hat and a blazer. I negotiate ruthlessly with vendors, architects, and corporate tenants. I channel every ounce of anger, every memory of that empty graduation chair, into the negotiations. Surviving my mother's psychological warfare made me immune to corporate intimidation. WM Elite grows from a single floor in Midtown to managing premier corporate properties across Buckhead, downtown, and the upscale perimeters of Atlanta. The seed money compounds rapidly. The initial $250,000 multiplies into a robust 7-figure operating budget. I move out of the modest apartment I rented during the startup phase. I sign a lease on a stunning, top-floor penthouse in Buckhead. My mornings transform into drinking black coffee in a marble kitchen, stepping into tailored charcoal suits, and taking a private elevator down to a waiting town car. Yet the silence mandated by Aunt Vivian remains intact. I change my primary phone number, but I keep a cheap prepaid cell phone active specifically to monitor any incoming communication from Marietta. Toxic families do not let their designated failures disappear without a fight. They need a baseline to measure their own false success against. If I remain a ghost, Barbara will simply invent a narrative. She will tell her friends that I am struggling on the streets, wearing my failure as a badge of honor to garner sympathy. To truly set the trap I am building, I need to keep her comfortable in her arrogance. I need to feed her ego so she never looks closely at the shadows where I am operating. The prepaid phone buzzes on my glass coffee table while I am reviewing a new commercial lease agreement. I pick up the device. It is a text message from Barbara. She tracked down this secondary number through a distant cousin I forgot to block. The message reads, "Savannah just closed on her wedding venue. Preston is sparing no expense. We are doing a tasting menu at the Ritz tomorrow. Let me know if you need to borrow a few dollars for your groceries this week. I know retail life must be tight." I stand by the floor-to-ceiling window of my penthouse, looking out over the Atlanta skyline. 3 of the high-rises in my direct line of sight house corporate suites managed by my firm. I read the text again. The condescension drips from every syllable. She wants me desperate. She needs me broken. Silence is no longer an effective shield. To ensure she never suspects the empire I am constructing, I have to give her the exact illusion she craves. I must become the caricature she designed for me. I set my coffee down and dial the number of a girl I used to wait tables with. Someone who now manages a local drive-through coffee franchise in a neighboring suburb. I have a very specific favor to ask, and it requires a green apron. 2 years pass, the calendar pages turn, and my life splits into 2 distinct parallel realities. In the first reality, I am the founder of WM Elite. The company is no longer just a concept on a piece of paper. It is a living, breathing, 7-figure entity. I secure master leases on neglected commercial floors in Buckhead and transform them into premium corporate sanctuaries. I negotiate with venture capital firms who pay exorbitant premiums for turnkey office suites with floor-to-ceiling glass, imported Italian marble reception desks, and dedicated fiber optic networks. My personal life reflects this new baseline. I wake up at 5 in the morning on high thread count silk sheets. I drink black coffee while looking out the window of my penthouse, watching the early morning fog roll off the Atlanta skyline. My closet holds rows of tailored charcoal blazers and structured wool trousers. I command a team of contractors, architects, and corporate leasing agents. I am respected. I am feared in negotiations. I am entirely self-sufficient. But there is a second reality, the reality I meticulously curate for the women living 20 miles away in Marietta. Toxic families require a scapegoat to sustain their own fragile egos. If I simply vanish, Barbara will invent a narrative where I am out in the world succeeding just enough to escape her, which she cannot tolerate. She needs me to be a failure. She needs to look at Savannah with her finance designer handbags and her wealthy fiancé named Preston and feel vindicated. Barbara needs to believe that stealing my identity and draining my savings was not a crime, but a necessary tax levied against a daughter who would have squandered the money anyway. A predator does not hunt when it is well fed. To keep my mother complacent, I must feed her delusion. On a rainy Tuesday afternoon, I tell my driver to take the rest of the day off. I take the keys to my personal vehicle, a slate gray Porsche SUV, and drive to a suburban coffee shop on the edge of Decatur. The manager of this specific franchise is an old friend named Megan. We waited tables together years ago at the diner. I park in the back alley next to the delivery entrance, stepping over puddles in my designer heels. I knock on the metal security door. Megan opens it, wiping her hands on a towel. She smells like roasted espresso beans and burnt caramel syrup. I hand her a folded $50 bill. I just need to borrow a clean apron for 5 minutes, I say. Megan looks at the cash, then looks at my tailored wool trousers and my silk blouse. She shakes her head, clearly baffled. You tip my baristas $100 for a black drip coffee, but you want to put on my uniform? I will never understand you, Willow. She hands me a faded green apron. I step into the cramped employee break room. The fluorescent lights overhead flicker, casting an unflattering, sickly yellow glow. I take off my blazer and hang it on a plastic chair. I pull my hair into a messy, uneven bun. I tie the green apron around my waist, intentionally letting it sit crooked. I dip one finger into a discarded coffee ground bin on the counter and smudge a faint streak of brown across my cheekbone. I pull out my phone and open the camera. I slump my shoulders, letting my posture project pure, unadulterated exhaustion. The lighting highlights the dark circles I contoured under my eyes this morning. I snap the photo. I do not post it publicly. I open an old, restricted social media account I have not used for anything genuine in years. I have exactly 12 followers on this account. One of them is a blank profile with no profile picture, operating under the handle PeachyKeen99. I know this is Savannah. She created it to spy on me without leaving a digital footprint. I upload the photo to my story with a simple caption, Clopen shifts back to back. Needs sleep. I hand the apron back to Megan, thank her, and slip out the back door. I slide into the driver's seat of the Porsche, turn the climate control to 68 degrees, and wait. The bait is in the water. I do not have to wait long. 20 minutes later, my burner phone vibrates in the center console. I only use this device for family correspondence. The screen illuminates with a text message from Barbara. Savannah took a screenshot of my story and forwarded it to her immediately. The message reads, Savannah just booked first-class tickets to Cabo with Preston. They are staying at a private villa. Let me know if you need $20 for your groceries this week. I know retail life must be tight. Try to smile at work, honey. Customers do not like sour faces. I read the text twice. I listen to the steady rhythm of the rain hitting the windshield. I do not feel the familiar sting of rejection. I do not feel the urge to draft a defensive reply. I feel the cold, sharp precision of a surgeon identifying the exact location of a tumor. She offered me $20 for groceries. The woman who committed federal wire fraud in my name, maxing out $20,000 in credit card debt to fund a luxury spa day, is offering me a $20 bill out of pity. I type my response. Thank you, Mom. Things are just a little slow right now. Tell Savannah I say congratulations on the trip. I hit send. The illusion is maintained. They feel superior. They feel safe. They will never look in the shadows to see the trap closing around them. Later that week, I am sitting in the back of a Lincoln town car. The city lights streak past the tinted windows. My driver, David, navigates the heavy evening traffic on Peachtree Street. I rest a thick black leather binder on my lap. I flip open the binder. Inside the plastic sleeves are the certified bank statements, the notarized fraud affidavits, and the credit reports bearing Barbara's digital fingerprints. The statute of limitations for wire fraud in the state of Georgia is 5 years. I am only 2 years into that window. I have plenty of time. I trace the edge of the paper with my index finger. Keeping this double life requires immense psychological discipline. There are moments when the urge to send them a screenshot of my corporate bank account burns in the back of my throat. I want to shatter their arrogance. I want to watch them realize I am out-earning Preston. But premature retaliation is sloppy. It gives the enemy time to construct a defense. If I reveal my wealth now, Barbara will pivot. She will claim she always believed in me. She will demand a cut of my earnings, claiming her harsh parenting was the motivation I needed to succeed. She will try to leech onto my status. Weaponized silence is the only way to ensure the final strike leaves no room for her to maneuver. David pulls the town car up to my residential high-rise. Before I step out, my phone chimes with a new email. It is an alert from a private mailbox I rent downtown. I have received a piece of certified mail. The next morning, I open the heavy ivory envelope. It is a formal invitation. Thick cardstock, gold foil embossing, elegant cursive script. Savannah and Preston request the honor of your presence at their engagement dinner. I scan the details. The date is 3 weeks away. Dress code is formal cocktail. I read the location of the venue and a slow, genuine smile spreads across my face. The dinner is being held at the Sovereign Cut. It is an ultra-premium steakhouse located on the ground floor of a newly renovated commercial tower in Midtown. It is notorious for its exclusivity, a place where people like Preston go to prove their net worth by ordering imported Wagyu beef and $1,000 bottles of wine. Savannah undoubtedly chose it to flaunt her new social climbing status. She wants me there so she can parade her wealthy fiancé in front of the sister who pours coffee for a living. She wants an audience for her triumph. I look at the embossed address on the invitation. Then I unlock my briefcase and pull out the commercial property portfolio for WM Elite. I flip to the third page. I trace the address printed on my master lease agreement. It matches the invitation perfectly. WM Elite holds the primary commercial lease for that entire building. I am the direct landlord for the Sovereign Cut. The restaurant pays their monthly rent into my corporate holding account. I pick up a gold pen from my desk. I check the box marked "Joyfully Accepts" on the RSVP card. I slide it into the return envelope. I am going to this dinner, and I am going to let them put on the performance of a lifetime on a stage that I own. The Sovereign Cut smells like aged leather, expensive bourbon, and seared butter. The lighting is intentionally dim, casting soft shadows across the dining room. I arrive exactly on time. I am wearing a simple, unassuming black dress I bought off a clearance rack 5 years ago. I left my tailored suits and my Rolex in the penthouse. Tonight, I am playing the role of the impoverished barista. The maitre d' greets me at the podium. His name is Julian. I know his name because I reviewed the restaurant's key personnel files when I audited their lease agreement 2 months ago. Julian does not recognize me. I instructed my property management team to maintain strict anonymity. My face has never appeared on any correspondence with the tenants. To Julian, I am just another guest. Montgomery party, I say quietly. Julian checks his leather-bound ledger. Yes, right this way. They are waiting for you at Table 4. Table 4 is a massive semicircular booth in the center of the room. Savannah is sitting next to Preston, resting her hand high on his chest so the diamond on her ring finger catches the light from the overhead chandelier. Barbara is seated across from them, wearing a silk blouse that probably cost a month of my old diner wages. "Well, look who finally made it," Barbara says loudly. Her voice carries over the low hum of the restaurant. "I am surprised you could get the night off. Did you have to find someone to cover your shift?" I slide into the booth next to Barbara. "I managed to trade a few hours," I reply, keeping my gaze lowered. Preston leans back, swirling a glass of amber liquid. He is a man who wears his wealth like body armor. His suit is sharp, but his smile is thin and dismissive. "Retail, right. Savannah mentioned you pour coffee." "I am a shift supervisor," I say softly. Preston chuckles. It is a dry, grating sound. "Hey, someone has to make the lattes. It is honest work, just not very lucrative work." He looks at Savannah and winks. We cannot all be cut out for high finance. Savannah giggles and kisses his cheek. Preston is a junior partner at a private equity firm in Midtown. He is the golden ticket Barbara has been grooming Savannah to catch since she was in high school. They both look at him with a mixture of reverence and calculated greed. The waiter approaches the table. He is young, maybe early 20s, wearing a crisp white apron over a black shirt. He introduces himself as Daniel. He hands out the menus, moving with nervous energy. Barbara does not look at Daniel when she speaks. She addresses the menu. "I will have the bone-in ribeye, medium rare. If it is overcooked, I will send it back. Savannah will have the sea bass. Preston is having the fillet." Daniel nods, scribbling quickly on his notepad. "And for you, miss." He looks at me. Before I can open my mouth, Barbara interjects. Her voice is amplified, designed to ensure the neighboring tables can hear. "Oh, I will pay for whatever she orders. Get the chicken, Willow. It is the cheapest thing on the menu." "We know retail does not pay the bills, sweetheart. I do not want you stressing over the check." I close my menu and hand it to Daniel. "I will have the chicken, thank you." The dinner is a masterclass in psychological warfare. Barbara and Savannah spend the next 2 hours weaving a narrative of absolute superiority. They discuss the wedding venue, a sprawling historic estate that requires a $50,000 deposit. They talk about floral arrangements flown in from Holland. They detail Preston's recent promotion and his year-end bonus. Every sentence is a carefully constructed spear aimed directly at my perceived failure. Barbara asks me probing questions about my imaginary studio apartment. She inquires if my car has finally broken down. She offers me leftovers from the table, insisting I must be starving on a barista budget. I eat my chicken. I nod. I agree with their assessments. I am a captive audience to their delusion. But I am watching Preston. The man financing this performance is not entirely comfortable. When Savannah casually mentions ordering custom silk napkins for the reception, Preston's jaw tightens. "We need to keep an eye on the budget, Savannah," he says sharply. His tone cuts through the celebratory mood. "You maxed out the secondary card last week on designer shoes. We are not printing money." Savannah's smile falters for a fraction of a second. She recovers quickly, placing her hand on his arm again. "Oh, Preston, do not be so dramatic. It was a sample sale. You want your bride to look perfect, do you not?" Barbara chimes in immediately, running interference. "Of course he does. Savannah is an investment. You are building a life together. You cannot put a price tag on presentation. Preston looks at Barbara, his eyes narrowing slightly. Actually, Barbara, you can. It is called a credit limit. The tension spikes. The facade cracks just enough for me to see the ugly reality beneath it. Savannah is spending money she does not have. And Preston is realizing his trophy wife is a financial liability. My mother is orchestrating the illusion, desperate to lock down the marriage before Preston checks the math. I take a sip of water to hide my amusement. They are dancing on a trapdoor, and they have no idea I hold the lever. The check arrives in a black leather folder. Preston reaches for it, but Barbara places her hand over his. No, I insist. This is a family celebration. I am treating tonight. She pulls a sleek metallic credit card from her designer clutch and hands it to Daniel. I recognize the bank logo. It is a high-tier travel rewards card. I also know with absolute certainty that Barbara does not have the income to qualify for that card on her own merit. She is floating this entire lifestyle on debt. Daniel runs the card and returns with the receipt. He places it gently on the table. Thank you for dining with us tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Barbara snatches the receipt. She pulls a gold pen from her purse and scribbles a signature. She writes a number on the tip line. She stands up, smoothing her silk blouse. Let us go. The valet is waiting. As they slide out of the booth, I glance down at the receipt. The total bill is over $800. The tip Barbara wrote on the line is $5. Daniel is clearing the water glasses from the other side of the table. He sees the number. His shoulders drop. He looks exhausted. Barbara notices him looking. She pauses, looking Daniel up and down with pure disdain. You forgot to refill my water twice, she snaps. Service equals reward. This is why you do not work in the service industry, Willow. You are entirely dependent on the generosity of your betters. She turns on her heel and walks toward the exit. Savannah and Preston follow her. I remain in the booth. I watch Daniel stack the dirty plates. He looks incredibly young, probably working his way through college. I waited tables for 3 years. I know what a $5 tip on an $800 check feels like. It is not just cheap. It is an insult. I reach into my small, battered purse. I bypass the cheap canvas wallet I brought as a prop. I reach into a hidden, zippered compartment and pull out my primary payment method. It is a heavy, matte black corporate card bearing the name WM Elite. I wait until Daniel turns toward the kitchen. I slide a blank napkin across the table. I place the black card underneath the napkin, leaving just the corner exposed. I write a quick note on the back of my dining receipt using a pen from my purse. Charge $500 to this card. Code it as a service gratuity. Tell your general manager I expect the new health benefit package for the wait staff to be implemented by the 1st of the month. WM. I leave the table and walk out the front doors of the restaurant. The night air is thick with humidity. The valet brings Preston's luxury sedan around to the curb. Savannah climbs into the passenger seat, looking smug and victorious. Barbara slides into the back. I decline the valet service. I tell my mother I am taking the subway back to my apartment. Barbara rolls down the tinted window. Suit yourself, Willow. Try to save some money this week. Preston accelerates and the sedan merges into the heavy Atlanta traffic. I stand on the curb and watch the taillights disappear down Peachtree Street. They performed their superiority perfectly. They belittled my career. They insulted the staff. They reveled in their perceived dominance. They sat in a restaurant located in a building leased by my holding company, and they treated me like a peasant. I pull my secondary phone from my pocket and dial my chief financial officer. He answers on the second ring. It is me, I say. We need to expedite the background financial audits for the new private equity clients, specifically the executive accounts associated with Vanguard Holdings. Vanguard Holdings is Preston's firm. Understood, my CFO says. Is there a specific executive file you want us to prioritize? Yes, I reply. I need a full liability sweep on a junior partner named Preston. I want his household debt profile flagged for review by tomorrow morning. Send the report directly to his senior managing partner. I end the call. The engine is running. It is time to cut the brakes. The view from my Buckhead office is best at 8 in the morning. The sunlight hits the glass facades of the neighboring high-rises, turning the Atlanta skyline into a grid of gold and steel. I am sitting behind a massive slab of polished walnut, sipping a macchiato from a ceramic cup. My dual monitors display commercial lease yields on the left and a highly confidential PDF document on the right. The PDF is a comprehensive household liability audit. My analysts compiled it overnight. Vanguard Holdings, the private equity firm where Preston is a junior partner, recently contracted WM Elite's corporate concierge division to vet their executive staff. High finance demands financial integrity. Firms like Vanguard cannot risk junior partners dragging undisclosed liabilities into the firm. I scroll through the report. The data on Preston is unremarkable. He has a standard mortgage, a luxury car lease, and typical student loan debt from a top-tier university. He is leveraged, but within acceptable parameters for his income bracket. Then I open the secondary file attached to his profile. The incoming household liabilities, the financial baggage his future wife is bringing into the marriage. Savannah's name sits at the top of the page. Below it is a catastrophic breakdown of unsecured debt. $60,000 across 4 different high-yield credit cards. $8,000 owed to a boutique bridal boutique. A $50,000 venue deposit secured by a predatory, high-interest personal loan co-signed by Barbara. Savannah is financially radioactive. She has been funding her entire designer lifestyle on revolving credit, hiding the statements from Preston, and relying on Barbara to co-sign the debt to keep the illusion afloat. They banked on the marriage going through before Preston ever looked at the books. They assumed his salary would absorb the debt quietly. I highlight the total liability figure in red. I do not make a phone call. I do not send an anonymous text. I simply execute a contractual obligation. I click the forward icon on my email client. I attach the flagged PDF report. I address the email to the senior managing partner at Vanguard Holdings, CCing Preston's direct corporate email address per the firm's audit protocols. I hit send, a single keystroke. The digital packet travels through the servers and lands in their inboxes. I lean back in my leather chair, taking a slow sip of my macchiato. I destroyed a wedding without leaving my desk. 72 hours later, the shockwave hits Marietta. It is a Thursday evening. I am reviewing architectural blueprints for a new corporate suite renovation. My burner phone vibrates on the coffee table. The screen illuminates. Incoming call. Barbara. I let it ring 3 times before I pick up. I keep my voice light, inflecting a tone of mild curiosity. Hello, Willow. Barbara's voice is sharp, brittle, bordering on hysteria. I need you to come to the house right now. It is an emergency. I pause, letting the silence stretch just long enough to make her uncomfortable. I am sorry, Mom. I am actually closing the coffee shop tonight. We are short-staffed. What is wrong? Barbara exhales a shaky breath. I can hear Savannah sobbing in the background. It is a wet, desperate sound. The wedding is off. My heart rate remains perfectly steady. Oh no, what happened? Preston canceled it. Barbara spits the words out like they taste like poison. He called her from his office. He said his firm ran a routine background check and found some credit card debt Savannah forgot to disclose. He called off the engagement, Willow. He moved out of their apartment. He left her with the venue bill. I feign shock. That is terrible. How much debt did they find? It does not matter how much debt it is, Barbara snaps. It was a misunderstanding. I co-signed a few loans to help her get started. It is nothing Preston could not have handled. He is a coward. He abandoned her. We are ruined, Willow. The venue deposit is non-refundable. The florists are demanding payment. We owe over $80,000 by the end of the month. The panic in her voice is a tangible thing. The carefully constructed facade of the wealthy, connected Marietta socialite is collapsing. She is drowning, and she is looking for a raft. I need you to apply for a personal loan, Barbara says. The transition is seamless. She moves from victim to predator in less than a sentence. You have not opened any credit lines in years. Your score should be decent. I need you to take out $40,000 to cover the immediate venue penalties until I can liquidate some assets. I look at the blueprints on my desk. The floor plan outlines a luxury executive suite that I am leasing for $60,000 a month. I am sitting on millions of dollars in liquid capital. I could pay off their debt with a single wire transfer and not even notice the deduction. I am just a barista, Mom, I say, my voice dripping with false regret. I make $14 an hour. I do not have credit. No bank is going to approve me for a $40,000 loan. But you have to try. Barbara's voice cracks. We are going to lose the house, Willow. You have to help your sister. I let out a heavy sigh. I am sorry, Mom. I really am. I have to get back to the espresso machine. My manager is glaring at me. I hang up the phone. I place the burner device in a drawer and lock it. I do not feel guilt. They stole my identity to buy designer shoes. They left me sleeping in a car. Now, they are facing the exact financial ruin they orchestrated for me. Gravity is simply doing its job. The next morning, I call my vice president of operations into my office. His name is Marcus. He is a former military logistics officer, severe, efficient, and entirely loyal to my vision. He stands in front of my desk holding a digital tablet. Marcus, I say, we need to fill the vacant position for the executive director of client relations. Marcus nods. The salary is currently allocated at $150,000 plus performance bonuses. I've instructed HR to post the listing on all premium executive job boards. Do you have specific candidate parameters? I turn my monitor toward him. I have designed a highly targeted digital advertising campaign. We will boost the job listing specifically within the Marietta and Buckhead geographical radius. I want the algorithm to target individuals searching for high-salary emergency employment, debt consolidation, and executive recovery roles. Marcus reviews the parameters. This is an unusual recruiting strategy, Ms. Montgomery. We typically rely on corporate headhunters for roles at this tier. We are fishing in a very specific pond, Marcus. Just execute the digital buy and ensure the company name remains strictly listed as WM Elite. No names, no corporate bios, just the salary and the application portal. Marcus nods, tapping the screen. Understood. The digital net is cast. The algorithms begin pushing the job listing onto screens across the northern suburbs. I know Barbara and Savannah are currently sitting in their house, frantically searching for a miracle. They are facing social exile. Savannah has no degree and no experience. Barbara has not worked a legitimate job in a decade. They are desperate, and desperate people do not look at the warning signs. They only look at the escape route. 3 days later, I'm sitting in the back of my town car reviewing weekly revenue reports. My iPad pings with a notification from my HR portal. 2 new applications have been submitted for the executive director position. I open the files. The first resume is attached to the name Barbara Montgomery. The second resume belongs to Savannah Montgomery. I stare at the digital documents. The trap has worked perfectly. They saw a faceless corporation offering a $150,000 salary, and they leaped at the bait. They have no idea they just applied to work for the daughter they discarded. I tap the intercom button connecting to my driver. David, change of plans. Take me to the office. I have some interviews to schedule. The town car pulls into the underground executive garage. I step onto the private elevator and press the button for the top floor. The doors slide shut. The ascent is silent, swift, and smooth. My mind is already calculating the logistics of the ambush. I walk through the glass double doors of WM Elite. The reception area is quiet. The evening cleaning crew has not arrived yet. I bypass the conference rooms and enter my corner office. I sit behind the walnut desk. I wake up my iPad. The screen glows in the dim room. A digital notification rests at the top of the display. 2 new submissions in the Human Resources portal. I tap the icon. The files open. Barbara Montgomery, Savannah Montgomery. I stare at the digital text. The letters form the names of the 2 women who destroyed my credit, stole my savings, and left me sleeping in a freezing car. Now, those same names sit inside my secure corporate server, attached to applications begging for a lifeline. The irony tastes like cold water after a long drought. I open Barbara's file first. The PDF is formatted with an elegant, modern template. She lists her objective as seeking a dynamic leadership role to leverage extensive management expertise. I read the work history. She claims 5 years as a senior operations director for a logistics firm. I know that firm. It went bankrupt and dissolved a decade ago. She is banking on the assumption that a fast-paced corporate recruiter will not dig into a dead company. I close her file and open Savannah's application. Her resume is even bolder. Under the education section, she proudly lists a Master of Business Administration from Emory University. I lived in the same house as her during those years. Savannah dropped out after 3 semesters with a grade point average hovering barely above failing. She spent her tuition money on designer clothes and weekend trips. Yet here, in black and white, she presents herself as an Ivy League-educated strategist. They are blinded by the $150,000 salary. Toxic narcissists share a fatal flaw. When they are desperate, they do not read the fine print. They only look at the dollar signs. They saw a high-tier corporate job listing in their geographical radius and assumed it was their salvation. They saw the letters WM and assumed it stood for wealth management or worldwide marketing. Because my firm operates as a strict business-to-business entity, my name is buried under layers of holding company documentation. To the outside world, the founder is just a shadow. To my mother and sister, the founder is a faceless checkbook waiting to rescue them from social ruin. I press the intercom button on my desk. I connect to my director of human resources. Her name is Claire. She's working late, finalizing payroll for the contractors. Claire, I need you to pull up the 2 applications that just entered the executive portal. I hear the clatter of keys through the speaker. I have them on my screen, Ms. Montgomery. I want both of these candidates fast-tracked, I say. Bypass the initial phone screening. Schedule them for in-person interviews this coming Tuesday, 8 in the morning for the mother, 9 in the morning for the daughter. Claire hesitates. The silence stretches for a few seconds. Ms. Montgomery, I am looking at these resumes. The formatting is clean, but the work histories lack verifiable references. The mother has a 10-year gap in her employment timeline. The daughter lists a degree, but the graduation date does not align with typical academic calendars. Neither candidate meets our baseline criteria for a director-level position. Claire is exceptional at her job. She spotted the fabrications in less than a minute. You have excellent instincts, Claire. I keep my tone even, projecting calm authority. However, we are conducting a specialized stress test for our internal vetting protocols. I want to see how candidates with inflated credentials handle high-pressure inquiries. It is an exercise in identifying corporate fraud. Understood, Claire replies, her professional demeanor returning instantly. Who will be conducting the interviews? Should I assign Marcus? No, I say. Do not involve the operations team for the initial greeting. Bring them straight to boardroom A. I will conduct these interviews personally. They will sit down with the CEO directly. I will send the calendar invites immediately, Claire says. Will you require the standard non-disclosure agreements upon their arrival? Yes, I reply. And Claire, run the deepest background checks our software allows. I want federal, state, and county records. I want educational verification and full credit liability profiles. Dig into every claim they make on those pages. Have the final reports printed and placed on my desk by Monday evening. Consider it done, she says. The intercom clicks off. I lean back in my chair. The trap is no longer just a concept. It is scheduled. It is on the calendar. I look out the floor-to-ceiling window. The sun has dipped below the horizon, and the city is a sea of headlights and illuminated office windows. Millions of people are down there, fighting for survival, dealing with difficult bosses, paying their rent, trying to build a life. 2 of those people are currently sitting in a house 20 miles away, celebrating. I can picture the scene. Barbara is probably pouring a glass of wine, telling Savannah that their luck has finally turned. They are likely picking out outfits, deciding which blazer projects the most confidence, practicing their interview answers in the mirror. They believe they have outsmarted the universe. They believe Preston abandoning them was just a temporary setback, a minor inconvenience before stepping into an even more lucrative reality. They have no idea that the digital net they swam into was woven by the girl they discarded. I log out of the HR portal. I open a blank digital document on my screen and begin typing a list. I am not just preparing interview questions. I am outlining an interrogation. I list the timeline of events from 2 years ago, the date of my graduation, the exact date Barbara withdrew my $5,000, the specific dates the fraudulent credit cards were opened under my Social Security number. I organize the data points chronologically. In corporate negotiations, whoever controls the timeline controls the outcome. If you let a liar dictate the pace of the conversation, they will spin the narrative until the truth gets buried under a mountain of excuses. I will not give them room to spin. I will build a corridor of undeniable facts, and I will force them to walk down it until they hit a dead end. My phone buzzes. It is a calendar alert. Tuesday, 8 o'clock, executive interview, Barbara Montgomery. I pick up my coffee cup. The liquid is cold, but the caffeine still sharpens my focus. The background checks Claire is running will take 48 hours to process. I already know what the educational and employment verification will reveal. The resumes are works of fiction. But the credit liability profile is the true weapon. When Claire runs my mother's Social Security number, the system will not just pull up her current debts, it will cross-reference the historical data. It will pull the active police reports and fraud affidavits my credit attorney filed 18 months ago to clear my name. It will connect the dots between Barbara's address and the stolen identity used to fund the Magnolia Retreat. The HR department is about to hand me the legal ammunition I need to end this war permanently. The wait is excruciating, but patience is the most expensive currency I own. I turn off the monitors, grab my keys, and walk out of the office. The countdown has begun, and the silence in the hallway feels like the deep breath before a storm. Monday evening, the corporate offices of WM Elite are quiet, save for the low hum of the climate control system. Most of the staff left an hour ago. I sit at my desk, the only source of illumination a brushed steel reading lamp casting a sharp circle of light across the walnut surface. Claire, my HR director, delivered the finalized background reports before she logged off for the day. 2 thick, sealed manila folders sit in the center of the light. The corporate logo is stamped across the top right corner. Confidential, executive review only. I pull the tab on the first folder. Savannah Montgomery. I flip past the standard criminal screening and the driving records. I turn directly to the educational verification page. Our software accesses the National Student Clearinghouse, a database that cross-references academic claims with direct university registrar records. The report states clearly in bold red font, degree unverified. Savannah claimed a Master of Business Administration from Emory University. The clearinghouse confirms she enrolled, but the dates of attendance end abruptly 3 semesters before graduation. Her final recorded grade point average was a 2.1. She was placed on academic probation and subsequently withdrew. I pick up a red highlighter from my pen cup. I draw a thick, deliberate circle around the word unverified. The scratch of the marker on the paper sounds incredibly loud in the empty office. It is one thing to lie on a dating profile or embellish a story at a cocktail party. But submitting a fraudulent degree application to a registered corporation crosses a significant line. I open the second folder, Barbara Montgomery. I bypass the education section and navigate to employment history. Barbara listed 5 years as Senior Director of Operations for a logistics firm named Apex Freight. The background software pings federal tax identification numbers and state business registries to confirm employment dates. The system returns another red flag. Apex Freight dissolved and surrendered its business license a decade ago, following a series of tax liens. Barbara claimed she managed a multi-million-dollar budget for them between 2018 and 2023. It is a physical impossibility. She fabricated half a decade of executive experience using a ghost company, assuming our HR department would not spend the money to run an advanced state registry search. I uncap the red highlighter again. I draw a line through the words Senior Director. I circle the date of the company's dissolution. This is corporate fraud. In a standard hiring scenario, Claire would simply reject the applications, flag their profiles as ineligible for future employment, and move on. The applicants would receive an automated email thanking them for their time. But this is not a standard hiring scenario. However, I know the limits of the law. Threatening a candidate with police action simply for lying on a resume is a weak legal bluff. It might result in a civil penalty, but no district attorney is going to spend resources prosecuting a padded employment history unless financial damages occurred. Barbara would laugh in my face. She would claim it was a misunderstanding, a typographical error, a resume formatting mistake made by an eager applicant. She would slither out of the trap. To permanently neutralize a threat, you cannot attack their pride. You have to attack their freedom. I stand up and walk to the locked filing cabinet in the corner of my office. I punch in the 4-digit code. The heavy steel drawer glides open. I reach past the active lease agreements and pull out the heavy black leather binder I purchased 2 years ago. The binder I have not opened since the day I secured my first commercial property. I carry it back to the desk and set it down next to the HR reports. I unclip the metal rings and flip through the plastic sleeves. The evidence of my mother's true criminality stares back at me. Here are the certified bank statements showing the unauthorized withdrawal of $5,000 from the joint account I funded. Next to those are the credit reports pulled by my attorney. They display the active accounts opened using my Social Security number. A Platinum Rewards card. A luxury retail line of credit. I pull out the centerpiece of the collection, the sworn fraud affidavit I signed 18 months ago to clear my credit score. Attached to it is the IP address log, tracking the digital applications back to the Wi-Fi router in the Marietta house. And on the final page, the itemized receipt from the Magnolia Retreat Spa, charged to a card issued in my name, signed for by a woman whose handwriting matches Barbara's signature perfectly. This is not a typographical error. This is federal wire fraud. This is identity theft, resulting in financial damages exceeding $20,000. The statute of limitations in Georgia for wire fraud is 5 years. We are only 2 years into that window. I have everything I need to send my mother to a federal penitentiary. I take the highlighted HR reports showing the resume fraud and slip them into the black binder, placing them directly behind the identity theft evidence. I snap the metal rings shut. The sound is sharp. Final. I am no longer the desperate 24-year-old crying in a Walmart parking lot. I am not the wounded daughter seeking an apology. I am an executive armed with actionable, undeniable leverage. I place my hands flat on the desk, looking at the closed binder. You cannot outscream a narcissist. If you raise your voice, they will tell everyone you are unstable. If you cry, they will call you dramatic. They thrive in the emotional chaos because chaos obscures the facts. But a narcissist cannot out-argue a documented background check. They cannot manipulate a certified bank statement. When you strip away the emotion and present them with a paper trail, their power evaporates. They rely on the victim's silence to maintain their illusion. I am about to break the silence with the loudest possible evidence. I close the HR portal on my computer. I check my calendar for the following morning. 8 o'clock, executive interview, boardroom A. I pick up my phone and draft a quick message to Marcus, my VP of Operations. Marcus, tomorrow morning's interviews require a slight adjustment. Ensure Jessica at the front desk checks them in promptly, but I do not want any support staff offering refreshments or engaging in small talk. Keep the interaction strictly professional and minimal. I will observe their arrival via the lobby security feed before I enter the boardroom. Marcus replies within 30 seconds. Acknowledged, Ms. Montgomery. The lobby cameras are fully operational. Security protocol is set. I slide the phone into my pocket. The preparation is complete. The armory is locked and loaded. Every document is verified. Every timeline is established. And the perimeter is secure. I pick up my blazer from the back of the chair and turn off the desk lamp. The office plunges into darkness, save for the faint glow of the city lights bleeding through the glass walls. I walk down the silent hallway, the clicking of my heels echoing off the polished floors. Tomorrow morning, Barbara and Savannah will wake up believing they have outsmarted the consequences of their actions. They will put on their best clothes, apply their makeup, and drive into the city thinking they are about to secure a financial lifeline that will save them from social ruin. They believe they are walking into an interview. They do not know they are walking into an execution. The morning sun breaks over the Atlanta skyline, casting long, sharp shadows across the hardwood floor of my penthouse. It is Tuesday, 6 o'clock. The city is just beginning to wake up, but my mind has been racing for hours. Today is not just another day of corporate negotiations or lease acquisitions. Today is a reckoning 2 years in the making. I walk into my expansive walk-in closet. Rows of designer clothing hang in perfect alignment. My hand trails over silk blouses and cashmere sweaters before stopping at the very back. I pull out a garment bag and unzip it. Inside hangs a custom-tailored charcoal gray wool suit. I run my fingers over the lapel. The fabric is heavy, structured, unyielding. I remember the handwritten letter Richard Sterling handed me in his downtown law office 24 months ago. Aunt Vivian's words echo in the quiet space of my closet. Barbara respects nothing but a tailored suit and a signed check. Do not speak to her again until you can wear one and cash the other. I dress with clinical precision. I button the crisp white Oxford shirt, tucking it flawlessly into the high-waisted trousers. I slide my arms into the charcoal jacket. It fits like armor. I step into a pair of black leather stilettos. Every piece of clothing is a deliberate choice, designed to project authority, wealth, and untouchable power. I walk over to the velvet-lined jewelry display on my dresser. I bypass the delicate necklaces and diamond studs. I pick up a heavy, brushed steel Rolex timepiece. I wrap the cold metal band around my left wrist. I press the clasp down. The crisp click of the mechanism locking into place sounds like a vault sealing shut. The watch is a statement piece, subtle but undeniable to anyone who understands money. Aunt Vivian's prophecy is fulfilled. I am wearing the suit. The checks are already cashed. I walk into the marble kitchen and pour a cup of black coffee. As I take my first sip, a jarring noise shatters the morning calm. My burner phone vibrates against the granite countertop. I pick up the cheap plastic device. The screen illuminates with a new text message. The sender is Barbara. I unlock the phone and open the message thread. Savannah and I have interviews today for 6-figure corporate jobs, the text reads. We are meeting with the CEO of a major wealth management firm. Wish us luck. Maybe one day you will get out of the coffee shop and find a real career. I read the words twice. I do not feel a spike of anger. I do not feel the old, familiar sting of inadequacy that used to paralyze me in my teenage years. I feel an overwhelming sense of profound, almost surreal amusement. The juxtaposition is staggering. Barbara is sitting in her house in Marietta, likely wearing an outfit she bought on credit, typing an insult to the daughter she believes is a retail failure. She possesses an unearned arrogance, a blind confidence built on a foundation of lies and stolen funds. She truly believes she is about to secure a financial lifeline from a faceless billionaire. She has absolutely no idea the faceless billionaire is the woman she just mocked. I place my coffee mug in the sink. I tap the screen and type my reply. Good luck, Mom. I hear the CEO is very detail-oriented. Make sure your resumes are accurate. I press send. The message delivers instantly. I turn off the burner phone and drop it into the kitchen trash can. I do not need it anymore. The era of playing the impoverished barista is officially over. The red herring has served its purpose. I grab my leather briefcase, ensuring the black binder is resting securely inside. I take the private elevator down to the residential parking garage. My slate gray Porsche SUV is waiting in its designated spot. The leather interior smells rich and clean. I press the ignition button. The engine roars to life with a deep, throaty growl. I merge onto the interstate, joining the morning commuter traffic flowing toward the business district. The drive gives me time to compartmentalize. I am taking the wounded daughter and locking her in a mental box. The woman gripping the steering wheel is the founder of WM Elite. I am a corporate executive protecting my firm from 2 individuals who committed fraud to get their foot in my door. The incoming interaction is strictly business. I pull into the underground executive garage of the WM Elite high-rise. I park in the spot marked CEO and take the secure elevator up to the top floor. The doors slide open. The reception area is immaculate. Sun streams through the glass walls, highlighting the minimalist decor and the sprawling marble reception desk. Jessica, my lead receptionist, is already stationed at her computer. She looks up and offers a bright, professional smile. Good morning, Ms. Montgomery. Good morning, Jessica, I reply, walking toward her desk. We have 2 candidates arriving shortly for the executive director position, Barbara and Savannah Montgomery. Jessica nods, pulling up the daily visitor log on her monitor. I have their security badges ready. Shall I offer them coffee or sparkling water while they wait? No, I say, my tone dropping an octave, becoming strict and instructional. I want this morning handled with very specific parameters. When they arrive, ask them to sign the visitor log. Do not engage in small talk. Do not offer refreshments. Point them toward the leather sofa in the waiting area and tell them the CEO will be ready shortly. Jessica blinks, sensing the shift in protocol. Usually, we pride ourselves on hospitality for executive candidates. I understand, Ms. Montgomery. Keep it strictly procedural. Exactly, I continue. Furthermore, I want you to confirm that the lobby security cameras are currently recording with audio capture enabled. Jessica types a command into her keyboard, checking the surveillance software dashboard. Yes, all cameras are active. Audio feeds are capturing clearly. Excellent, I say. Do not notify me on the intercom when they arrive. I will monitor the lobby feed from my iPad inside Boardroom A. Once they have been waiting for exactly 10 minutes, you may instruct them to walk down the hall and enter the boardroom. I will follow your instructions to the letter. Jessica says, her posture straightening. I leave the reception area and walk down the long hardwood corridor. I enter boardroom A. The room is vast, dominated by a massive mahogany conference table surrounded by black leather ergonomic chairs. The far wall is entirely glass, offering a sweeping, unobstructed view of the bustling city below. I walk to the head of the table. I set my briefcase down. I extract the thick black binder and place it squarely in front of the CEO chair. I sit down, the leather creaking softly under my weight. I wake up my iPad and open the proprietary security application. The screen splits into a grid of high-definition camera feeds. I tap the feed for the front lobby, expanding it to fill the display. The digital clock in the corner of the screen reads 7:45. They are scheduled for 8. They will arrive early to make a good impression. I fold my hands on top of the black binder. The silence in the boardroom is heavy, pregnant with anticipation. My heart beats in a slow, steady rhythm. The trap is laid. The bait has been taken. The executioner is seated. On the iPad screen, the numbers above the lobby elevator bank begin to light up, tracking a car descending from the ground floor. The numbers drop sequentially. 3, 2, 1. The elevator chimes. The polished metal doors begin to slide open. I lean closer to the screen, my eyes fixed on the expanding gap. The waiting is over. The reality they built is about to collide with the empire I own. The elevator doors part completely. On my iPad screen, the high-definition feed captures Barbara and Savannah stepping into the WM Elite lobby. Even through the digital display, their presence is loud. Barbara is wearing a navy pantsuit that fits poorly, likely purchased off the rack from a mid-tier department store, and not tailored. She carries a stiff, heavily branded tote bag that I immediately recognize as a counterfeit. Savannah follows closely behind, dressed in a tight pencil skirt and a blouse cut far too low for a corporate environment. She is clutching a fake designer clutch, her hair styled in elaborate waves. They look exactly like two women trying desperately to project wealth they do not possess. I watch them pause, taking in the sheer scale of the reception area. Barbara's eyes sweep over the imported marble desk, the minimalist art installations, and the sweeping views of the city. For a brief second, I see genuine intimidation flash across her face. She realizes this is not a small, regional management firm. She has walked into a high-stakes corporate ecosystem. She quickly masks her hesitation, lifting her chin and assuming the haughty, entitled posture she uses to navigate the country club in Marietta. She strides toward the reception desk, Savannah trailing behind her. Jessica stands up as they approach, offering a polite, neutral greeting. "Good morning." "Welcome to WM Elite. How may I assist you?" Barbara does not return the greeting. She leans against the high counter, adopting an air of exaggerated importance. "Yes, good morning. We are here for the executive director interviews with the CEO. Barbara Montgomery and Savannah Montgomery. You should have our names on your list." "I have your appointments noted," Jessica replies smoothly. She slides a clipboard and a sleek silver pen across the glass surface of the desk. "If you could please sign the visitor log and note your time of arrival, I will let the executive suite know you are here." Barbara looks at the clipboard, then looks back at Jessica with an expression of performative disbelief. She scoffs, a sharp, dismissive sound that the audio feed picks up perfectly. "We are interviewing for executive roles, sweetie," Barbara says, stressing the patronizing endearment. "We are not delivery drivers. Just call the boss and tell him his top candidates are waiting." Jessica remains unfazed, adhering strictly to my instructions. The visitor log is standard security protocol for all external guests, regardless of their appointment type. "Please sign here." Barbara rolls her eyes dramatically, snatching the pen from the desk. She scribbles her name with aggressive, looping strokes. She shoves the clipboard toward Savannah. Savannah does not immediately sign. She is busy looking at her reflection in the darkened glass of a nearby decorative partition. Barbara nudges her. Savannah turns back to the desk, clearly annoyed at the interruption. "Where is the coffee station?" Savannah asks, her tone flat and demanding. "I am sorry," Jessica says politely. "We are currently refreshing the executive lounge. If you would like to take a seat on the sofa, the CEO will be ready for you shortly." Savannah stares at Jessica. The entitlement is palpable, radiating through the screen. Savannah raises her hand and taps her long, meticulously manicured acrylic nails against the glass surface of the reception desk. Click, click, click. The sound is sharp and rhythmic, a deliberate manifestation of her irritation. Those acrylic nails are a symbol I know intimately. They are the same nails she was filing on the living room recliner while Barbara told me my college degree was worthless. They are the nails funded by the credit cards opened under my stolen identity. They represent the high-maintenance facade she prioritizes over basic human decency. "Are you serious?" Savannah snaps, continuing to tap the glass. "I have a 9 o'clock interview. I need caffeine. Is there not an assistant you can send to get me a latte?" Jessica does not blink. She maintains a professional, unyielding expression. "Please take a seat on the sofa." Savannah huffs loudly, crossing her arms over her chest. "Unbelievable," she mutters, turning away from the desk. Barbara shakes her head, looking at Jessica with a mixture of pity and disdain. "It is hard to find good help these days, Savannah. Do not let it ruin your focus. We are not here to socialize with the front desk." They walk over to the sprawling leather sofa in the waiting area and sit down. They immediately pull out their phones, completely ignoring their surroundings, cocooned in their shared bubble of narcissism. I sit in the boardroom, watching the feed. My hands are resting flat on the cover of the black binder. Any residual, lingering daughterly guilt I might have harbored concerning this ambush evaporates entirely. There is a psychological concept called trauma bonding, where a victim rationalizes the behavior of their abuser, searching for hidden context or excusing their cruelty as a symptom of underlying pain. For 2 years, a small, irrational part of me wondered if my absence had forced them to reflect, if losing a family member had humbled them in any capacity. Watching them mistreat my receptionist confirms the stark reality. They have not changed. They are not victims of circumstance. They are simply bullies. They operate under the assumption that anyone below their perceived social standing is disposable, existing only to serve them or absorb their frustration. They treated me like the receptionist for 24 years. Now they are treating my actual receptionist with the same contempt, validating every ounce of the retaliation I have meticulously prepared. I do not feel anger. I feel the cold, clarifying focus of an executive making a termination decision based on empirical evidence. I have verified their resume fraud. I have documented their financial crimes. And now, I have recorded video evidence of their inability to maintain basic professional decorum. The case is airtight. The jury has reached a verdict before the trial even begins. I look at the digital clock on the iPad screen. It is 7:55. They have been sitting on the sofa for exactly 10 minutes. The psychological tension of waiting in a silent, high-tier corporate lobby is designed to strip away false confidence. I can see Savannah bouncing her knee nervously. Barbara is repeatedly checking her watch, her initial arrogance starting to curdle into anxiety. They are wondering why no one has offered them water, why no assistant has come to brief them, why the environment feels so sterile and unaccommodating. They are off balance. The environment is doing the heavy lifting for me. I pick up my phone and open my text messages. I type a quick command to Jessica. Send them into boardroom A. I watch the screen. Jessica receives the message. She stands up from her desk and walks around the counter toward the waiting area. "The CEO is ready to see you both now," Jessica says smoothly. "Please proceed down the main hallway. Boardroom A is the last door on the right. Barbara stands up abruptly, smoothing her jacket. Both of us, at the same time. We scheduled separate interviews. The CEO requested you both attend the initial briefing together, Jessica replies, offering no further explanation. Barbara and Savannah exchange a confused glance, but they do not argue. The prospect of facing the wealthy CEO overrules their hesitation. They grab their fake designer bags and walk past Jessica without a word of thanks. I minimize the security feed on my iPad and turn the screen off. I slide the tablet into my briefcase, ensuring the surface of the mahogany table is completely clear, save for the black leather binder resting directly in front of me. I sit back in the heavy leather executive chair. I adjust my posture, squaring my shoulders, embodying the absolute authority of the position I built from the ground up. I lace my fingers together, resting them lightly on top of the binder. I listen. The corporate offices are incredibly quiet, designed with high-grade acoustic dampening to ensure privacy during sensitive negotiations. But I can hear them. The sharp clack of Savannah's heels and the heavier, duller thud of Barbara's sensible pumps echo down the long hardwood corridor. The footsteps grow louder, closer, marching steadily toward the heavy oak door. The pacing is irregular. They are walking quickly, fueled by nervous energy and the desperate need to secure the six-figure salaries they believe are waiting on the other side of the wall. They are walking into what they think is their financial salvation. The footsteps stop right outside the boardroom. I hear Barbara whisper something indistinct, likely a final word of encouragement or a directive to Savannah to sit up straight. A shadow passes under the gap at the bottom of the door. The heavy brass handle begins to turn downward. The metal mechanism clicks loudly in the silent room. The heavy oak door pushes inward. The climax is seconds away, and I am ready to burn their illusion to the ground. The brass handle depresses fully. The heavy oak door pushes inward, swinging open on silent hinges. I remain seated in the high-backed leather chair at the head of the mahogany table, my back to the floor-to-ceiling window. The morning sun streams in behind me, casting me in a stark, backlit silhouette. To anyone entering the room, my features are temporarily obscured by the glare, rendering me a dark, imposing figure of corporate authority. Barbara enters first, leading with her chin, adopting an expression of forced, eager professionalism. Savannah follows, her eyes darting immediately to the imported marble accents and the expensive modern art hanging on the soundproofed walls. They do not recognize me immediately. The silhouette, the tailored charcoal suit, the sleek, pulled-back hair. It does not compute with their mental image of the exhausted barista wearing a faded green apron. Barbara strides toward the far end of the massive table. She pulls out a chair and gestures for Savannah to sit next to her. They arrange their fake designer bags on the floor. On the table in front of them sit 2 crystal water glasses and a silver pitcher, placed there by maintenance earlier this morning. Barbara pours a glass of water for herself. Her hand is remarkably steady. She believes she is in control of her narrative. She whispers something to Savannah, pointing toward the sweeping view of the Atlanta skyline. Savannah nods excitedly, mouthing the words, "This place is incredible." I let them settle. I let them absorb the luxury of the environment I built. The psychological impact of the reveal relies entirely on the contrast between their current expectation and the incoming reality. I lean forward, moving out of the backlit glare of the window. The ambient light of the boardroom catches my face. I place both hands flat on top of the black leather binder resting on the table. "Good morning," I say. My voice is level, modulated to carry across the length of the long mahogany table without raising my volume. Barbara stops mid-whisper. She turns her head toward the end of the table. Her eyes adjust to the lighting. She focuses on my face. For 5 agonizingly long seconds, the boardroom is suspended in absolute, vacuum-sealed silence. I watch the cognitive dissonance play out across my mother's features. Her brain is violently rejecting the visual data it is receiving. She squints, her brow furrowing deeply. She looks at the expensive charcoal suit, the brushed steel Rolex on my wrist, the posture of total ownership I am projecting. Then she looks at my face, recognizing the daughter she discarded 2 years ago. The two images cannot coexist in her reality. She defaults to the only dynamic she understands. She assumes I am the help. "Willow," Barbara says, her voice a mixture of profound confusion and immediate irritation, "what are you doing here?" Savannah leans forward, peering around her mother. Her eyes widen. She lets out a short, incredulous laugh. "Wait, do you work here? Are you the assistant fetching our water?" Barbara shakes her head, her annoyance calcifying into anger. She thinks I have embarrassed her in front of a potential employer. She assumes I have stumbled into the wrong room and ruined her crucial first impression. "This is highly inappropriate, Willow," Barbara snaps, her tone sharp and disciplinary. "We are waiting for the chief executive officer. You cannot just barge in here. If you work in the mailroom or something, you need to leave immediately before you cost us this opportunity. Get out." I do not move. I do not blink. I let her finish her reprimand. I let her dig the hole as deep as she possibly can. When she finishes speaking, the silence returns, heavier than before. I slowly unlace my fingers. I reach out and flip open the cover of the black binder. The plastic sleeves rustle softly in the quiet room. "I am not fetching your water, Barbara," I say, my voice dropping an octave, settling into a cold, clinical cadence. "And I am not leaving the room." Barbara's jaw tightens. She places her water glass down on the stone coaster. The impact is harder than she intends. The crystal hits the stone with a sharp, trembling clink that echoes across the mahogany. Her hand is no longer steady. The primal, subconscious part of her brain realizes something is horribly wrong before her conscious mind catches up. I look directly into her eyes. I hold the gaze, refusing to grant her the deference she demands. "I am the founder and chief executive officer of WM Elite," I state clearly, articulating every syllable. "Welcome to my firm." The physical reaction is instantaneous. The color violently drains from Barbara's face, leaving her skin a stark, ashen gray. Her mouth opens slightly, but no sound emerges. Her breathing shallows out. She stares at me, paralyzed, like a passenger watching a train derail in slow motion. Savannah gasps. It is a sharp, audible intake of air. Her hand flies to her chest, clutching the fabric of her low-cut blouse. She looks around the opulent boardroom, taking in the mahogany, the marble, the floor-to-ceiling glass, and then looks back at me sitting at the head of the table. The realization hits them with the concussive force of a physical blow. The architecture of their entire worldview collapses in a matter of seconds. The daughter they threw away, the girl they mocked as a retail loser, the person they confidently offered a $20 bill for groceries, holds the master lease for this multi-million-dollar commercial high-rise. The power dynamic shifts so violently, it leaves the antagonists completely breathless. They are sitting in chairs I purchased, drinking water from pitchers I own, breathing air-conditioned air that I pay for. I do not give them time to recover. In corporate negotiations, when your opponent loses their footing, you press the advantage immediately. You do not allow them space to formulate a defense. "You applied for the executive director of client relations," I continue, bypassing their shock entirely and moving straight to the agenda. "The position offers a base salary of $150,000 plus performance incentives. It requires a candidate with impeccable integrity, a verified educational background, and a pristine financial liability profile." Barbara attempts to speak. Her voice is a dry, strangled croak. "Willow, this cannot be. You do not have the money for this. This is a trick. You rented this office to humiliate us." Denial. It is the first line of defense for a cornered narcissist. She would rather believe I orchestrated an elaborate, expensive theatrical production just to embarrass her than accept the empirical reality of my success. I ignore the accusation. I do not engage with her delusion. I reach into the black binder and pull out the first document. I am going to outline exactly why neither of you are qualified to work for my company, I say, my tone shifting from cold authority to clinical deconstruction. We are going to review your background checks, and then we are going to review your criminal liabilities. Savannah flinches at the word criminal. She shrinks back into her heavy leather chair, suddenly looking very small in the massive boardroom. The trap has snapped shut. The door is locked. The evidence is on the table. The era of the golden child and the scapegoat is officially dead, buried under a mountain of corporate receipts, and the execution is just beginning. Barbara places both hands flat on the mahogany table, pushing herself back slightly in her chair. This is a joke. You are playing a trick on us. You hired actors. You rented this room. Who put you up to this? She looks wildly around the boardroom, as if expecting hidden cameras to emerge from the ceiling or a prank show host to step out from behind the velvet curtains. Her brain cannot process the data. I do not raise my voice to argue. Arguing validates their delusion. It implies there is a debate to be had. I deal only in documentation. I slide the first document across the long expanse of the polished table. It glides smoothly, stopping precisely in front of Savannah. The corporate logo of WM Elite is stamped at the top, alongside the seal of the third-party verification firm. Savannah, I begin, my tone strictly administrative. Your application indicates you hold a Master of Business Administration from Emory University. You highlight this degree as your primary qualification for a six-figure executive salary. Savannah stares at the paper. She does not touch it. Her hands are shaking in her lap. Our educational verification software accessed the National Student Clearinghouse this morning, I continue. The report confirms you enrolled, but it also confirms you withdrew 3 semesters prior to graduation. Your final recorded grade point average was a 2.1, resulting in academic probation. Claiming a degree you did not earn on a formal corporate application is fraud. Savannah shrinks into the heavy leather chair. The confident, sneering girl who filed her nails while my mother insulted my graduation is gone. In her place sits a terrified dropout facing the consequences of a fabricated life. Her anxiety manifests physically. She begins picking nervously at the edge of her thumbnail. I turn my attention to Barbara. I slide the second document down the table. It stops next to her untouched water glass. Barbara, your resume lists 5 years of continuous employment as Senior Director of Operations for a firm named Apex Freight. You claim you managed a multi-million-dollar budget for them between 2018 and 2023. Barbara looks at the document. Her eyes flick to the red circles I drew on the page. She licks her lips, her bravado faltering. Well, it was a consulting role. The titles were fluid. I provided significant strategic oversight. I cut her off. I do not let the lie gain traction in the room. Apex Freight dissolved and surrendered its state business license a decade ago, following multiple federal tax liens. You claimed executive experience at a ghost company. That is not an embellishment. That is a deliberate fabrication designed to deceive a hiring entity. Barbara's chest rises and falls rapidly. The oxygen in the room seems to thin out. The realization that they are not dealing with a gullible daughter, but a clinical executive armed with hard data, finally begins to penetrate their panic. But you are the CEO, Savannah blurts out, her voice trembling, desperate. You can just override the background check. You can hire us anyway. We're family, Willow. Preston left me. I have $80,000 in wedding debt. I need this job. We need this money. The sound of Savannah begging me for money, the exact sister who laughed at me when my own bank account was drained, rings hollow in the soundproof boardroom. She is crumbling. Her nervous picking intensifies. She digs her thumb under the edge of her expensive, pearl-colored acrylic nail and pulls. A sharp, audible crack echoes across the table. The acrylic nail snaps entirely in half, tearing away from the adhesive. Savannah recoils, holding her hand to her chest, staring at the jagged, broken edge. The perfect, high-maintenance facade she prioritizes above all else is physically breaking apart right in front of me. I look at the broken nail, then I look directly at Barbara. I am going to override the background check, Savannah, I say smoothly, but not to hire you. I am overriding it to explain exactly why this firm operates the way it does. I lean forward, resting my forearms on the table. The time for the red herring is over. The time for the final reveal has arrived. WM Elite does not just remodel office space, I say. We specialize in acquiring distressed commercial assets. We identify failing businesses, purchase their corporate debt at a fraction of the cost, and assume control of the underlying real estate leases. Barbara stares at me, uncomprehending. She does not understand corporate finance. She only understands country club gossip. Why are you telling us this? She demands, her voice tight. I fire the Chekhov's gun I have been holding for 2 years. Because last fiscal quarter, my acquisitions team identified a high-end commercial wellness center in Buckhead that was defaulting on its vendor payments. The business was over-leveraged and failing. WM Elite purchased their outstanding commercial debt. We absorbed the lease. I pause, letting the silence stretch just long enough for the implication to hover in the air. I own the master lease for the Magnolia Retreat, I state clearly. I am the direct landlord for the spa you chose over my college graduation. The oxygen leaves the room entirely. Barbara stops breathing. Her eyes widen to impossible proportions. The specific cruelty she inflicted on me 2 years ago, the trivial luxury she prioritized over my milestone, now belongs to the daughter she deemed worthless. The poetic justice hits her with the force of a physical impact. She is sitting in a building I own, begging for a job, after I purchased the very symbol of her betrayal. Barbara's panic finally overrides her calculation. She resorts to the final, desperate tactic of the cornered abuser. She plays the maternal card. She stands up, placing her hands flat on the table, leaning toward me. I am your mother, she shouts, her voice cracking, echoing harshly against the glass walls. I raised you. I put a roof over your head. You owe me this. You cannot just sit up there in your expensive suit and judge me. We are blood. You are going to give us these jobs because it is your duty to protect your family. The outburst is loud, messy, and entirely devoid of logic. It is the tantrum of a woman who realizes she has lost control of the narrative. I do not raise my voice to match hers. I drop my tone to absolute zero. The temperature in the room plummets. You did not raise me, Barbara, I say softly. You tolerated my existence until you found a way to monetize it. I reach into the black binder. I pull out the final set of documents, the certified bank statements, the fraud affidavits, the credit reports, the itemized receipt from the Magnolia Retreat charged to a card in my name. You stole my survival fund, I continue, sliding the stack of federal evidence down the center of the table. And when that was gone, you committed identity theft. You ruined my credit score. You left me sleeping in a Honda Civic in a Walmart parking lot so you could buy designer robes and hot stone massages. Barbara looks down at the stack of evidence. She sees her own signature on the credit card receipt. She sees the IP addresses traced to her router in Marietta. The false bravado shatters completely. She realizes the danger she is in. This is no longer a corporate rejection. This is a criminal indictment. And in the corporate world, I finish, closing the black binder with a definitive snap. We do not higher liabilities. Barbara opens her mouth, but she has run out of lies. She has run out of excuses. The paper trail is irrefutable. She turns away from the table, looking frantically toward the heavy oak door. She needs an escape route. She needs someone to rescue her from the reality of her own actions. She is about to demand an audience with a higher authority, completely failing to grasp the fundamental truth of the room she is standing in. Barbara stares at the stack of evidence proving her identity theft. The physical proof of her criminality sits under the fluorescent lighting of the boardroom, impossible to spin, impossible to deny. Her brain, hardwired for decades to deflect accountability, hits a critical failure point. She cannot accept that the daughter she treated as disposable garbage has outmaneuvered her both financially and legally. She resorts to pure, unadulterated, narcissistic delusion. She stands up violently, pushing her heavy leather chair back so hard it screeches against the hardwood floor. "You are lying," she shouts, her voice bouncing off the acoustic dampening panels. "This is all a lie. You did not build this. You are a barista. You could not even afford a deposit on a studio apartment 2 years ago." She points a shaking, manicured finger at me. "Who is backing you? Who is the real owner of this company? I demand to speak to them. I am going to tell them exactly what kind of ungrateful, manipulative person you are. I will have you fired for impersonating an executive and harassing applicants." The volume of her outburst is jarring. WM Elite operates with library, quiet efficiency. Yelling is a violation of the environment itself. Barbara storms away from the table, marching toward the heavy oak door. She intends to force her way out of the room, find an adult in charge, and complain to the manager. She still fundamentally believes I am a low-level employee playing a prank, because accepting the alternative means accepting her own catastrophic failure. Before Barbara can reach the handle, the heavy oak door opens inward. Marcus, my vice president of operations, steps into the boardroom. Marcus spent 15 years as a logistics officer in the military before transitioning to corporate management. He stands 6 feet 2 inches tall, broad-shouldered, and wears a dark suit with impeccable, rigid posture. He radiates authority. He heard the shouting from the adjacent corridor and intervened to secure the perimeter. Barbara sees Marcus. Her eyes light up with desperate relief. She immediately assumes he is the adult in charge. She assumes he is the man who owns the building, the executive she can complain to, the savior who will discipline the rogue barista. She pivots instantly, switching from aggressive to victimized. She grabs Marcus by the forearm. "Oh, thank God you are here," she gasps, adopting a tone of frantic distress. "Are you the owner? You need to handle this immediately. This girl," she points back at me, "is your assistant or something." She locked us in here. She is making wild accusations and showing us fake documents. She is completely unstable. You need to fire her right now. Marcus does not move. He looks down at Barbara's hand on his forearm. He does not pull away, but he stares at her grip with a look of pure, unvarnished disdain. The kind of look you give a stranger who just spilled coffee on your expensive suit. Barbara feels the chill. She slowly removes her hand, stepping back slightly, but she maintains her expectant expression. She waits for Marcus to validate her outrage. She waits for him to march past her, scold me, and apologize for the inconvenience. Marcus steps fully into the room. He does not look at Barbara. He does not look at Savannah, who is still cowering in her chair, holding her broken acrylic nail. Marcus turns his entire body toward the head of the table. He looks directly at me. He stands at attention, his hands clasped loosely behind his back. "Ms. Montgomery," Marcus says. His voice is deep, calm, and incredibly respectful. "I heard a disturbance. Do you need me to call building security to have these applicants escorted from your property?" The boardroom goes dead silent. The 2 words, Ms. Montgomery, the respectful title, the deference in his posture, the specific phrase, your property. Marcus, a highly respected senior male executive, just validated my absolute supremacy in front of the woman who spent 26 years telling me I was worthless. He did not ask what was happening. He asked for my orders. The delusion shatters. The glass house Barbara built in her mind fractures into a million pieces and crashes down around her. There is no real owner hiding behind a curtain. There is no manager to complain to. There is no higher authority she can manipulate. The buck stops with me. I am the ceiling. Barbara's knees buckle slightly. She reaches out and grabs the back of an empty chair to steady herself. Her mouth opens and closes, but the air seems to have evaporated from her lungs. The color that had rushed to her face during her shouting match drains away completely, leaving her looking hollowed out and incredibly old. Savannah breaks first. The reality of the situation finally penetrates her panic. The wealthy fiancé is gone. The country club wedding is canceled. They owe $80,000 in non-refundable venue deposits. Her mother committed federal fraud. And the only person standing between them and total financial ruin is the sister they abused. Savannah buries her face in her hands and starts sobbing. It is not a performative, dramatic cry designed to garner sympathy. It is the ugly, wet, hyperventilating sob of a person who has hit absolute rock bottom. "Willow, please," Savannah wails, the sound muffled by her hands. "Please, we are broke. Preston left me. He found the credit card debt. He canceled everything. The venue is threatening to sue Mom because she co-signed the deposit. We are going to lose the house. We have nothing. I will do anything. I will work in the mailroom. I will pour coffee for your staff. Please, just give me a job. I need a paycheck." Savannah is begging. The golden child, the girl who flaunted her designer bags and laughed at my graduation, is openly begging me for a minimum wage position in my building. I look at Savannah crying at the table. I look at Barbara leaning heavily against the chair, staring at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. A lesser person might feel a twinge of pity. A lesser person might look at their broken family and decide that the humiliation was enough, that blood dictates mercy, that giving them a low-level data entry job would be a magnanimous gesture of forgiveness. But I am not a lesser person. I am a corporate executive protecting my assets. I survived their abuse because I learned to separate emotion from strategy. Giving them a job inside my firm would be planting a virus inside a healthy system. They would eventually try to leverage the relationship, demand unearned promotions, or steal company resources. They are liabilities. I do not offer pity. Pity is a currency they would exploit. I look at Marcus. "Stand by, Marcus," I say softly. "We are concluding this interview now." Marcus nods once and steps back, taking a position near the door, acting as a physical barrier. He is securing the exit. I turn back to the table. I reach into the black leather binder one final time. I pull out a single thick document printed on heavy legal paper. It is not an employment contract. It is a termination of access. I slide the document down the center of the mahogany table. It stops directly between Barbara and Savannah. I do not offer jobs, I state clearly, my voice devoid of any warmth. But I do offer terms, and these are the only terms you will ever receive from me again. Barbara slowly lifts her head. She looks at the document on the table, her eyes red-rimmed and defeated. "What is this?" she whispers. Her voice is barely audible. "This," I reply, "is a legal checkmate, and your signature is the only thing standing between you and a federal indictment." The document rests on the polished mahogany surface, a stark white rectangle against the dark wood. It is 5 pages long, drafted by my corporate counsel, and bound with a heavy brass staple. Barbara does not reach for it. Savannah stops crying long enough to stare at the paper, her breath hitching in her chest. I pull a silver pen from the inside pocket of my blazer and place it next to the document. What you are looking at, I begin, pacing my words deliberately, is a comprehensive legal settlement. It is composed of 3 distinct sections. The first section is a formal, written admission of corporate resume fraud, acknowledging that both of you knowingly submitted fabricated educational and employment histories to a registered hiring entity. Savannah whimpers, burying her face back in her hands. The second section, I continue, ignoring the interruption, is a strict, permanent, civil no-contact order. By signing this, you agree to cease all communication with me, both personal and professional. You agree never to step foot inside this building. You agree never to approach any commercial property managed by WM Elite. You agree to vanish from my life entirely. Barbara finally finds her voice. It is small, defeated, stripped of the unearned arrogance she carried into the lobby 20 minutes ago. And if we refuse to sign it, she asks, what then? You cannot force us to sign away our rights. You cannot blackmail us. I do not smile, but a cold satisfaction settles over me. She still thinks there is a negotiation happening. She still thinks she has a hand to play. I reach into the black binder. I pull out the final, irrefutable piece of evidence, the notarized fraud affidavit, stapled to the IP address logs and the itemized receipt from the Magnolia Retreat. I slide it across the table, placing it directly on top of the settlement agreement. Option B, I state, my voice sharp as cut glass. If you refuse to sign the settlement, I pick up this binder. I walk out of this boardroom. I drive directly to the Atlanta Police Department. I hand over the certified proof that you committed federal wire fraud and identity theft. I file formal criminal charges. Barbara looks at the receipt. She sees her own signature, the one she forged in my name to buy hot stone massages and cucumber water while I was sleeping in a freezing car. The statute of limitations has not expired, Barbara. The paper trail is flawless. The IP addresses trace directly to your router. The shipping addresses for the designer goods Savannah bought trace directly to your door. This is not a civil dispute. This is a felony. I lean forward, resting my weight on the table, closing the physical distance between us. You stole $20,000 using my Social Security number, I say. The fraud division will not care that you did it to pay for a spa day. They will not care that you thought of it as back rent. They will arrest you. You will be indicted. You will face prison time. And you will undoubtedly lose the house in Marietta to pay the legal fees before you are even convicted. Barbara is backed into a corner with absolutely zero leverage. The air is completely sucked out of the room. The reality of her situation crashes down on her. She is not negotiating for a job anymore. She is negotiating for her freedom. She looks at Savannah, who is hyperventilating, terrified of the word prison. Savannah's lavish, high-maintenance life has evaporated, replaced by the imminent threat of criminal prosecution. Sign it, Mom, Savannah begs, her voice shrill and panicked. Just sign the paper. Please, I cannot go to jail. Preston already left me. We have nothing. Just sign it. Barbara looks back at me. Her eyes are red-rimmed, mascara bleeding down her cheeks in dark, jagged lines. The woman who mocked my graduation, the woman who laughed when she drained my bank account, is utterly broken. She realizes she has entirely lost the war she started. She reaches out with a violently shaking hand. She picks up the silver pen. The silence in the boardroom is profound. The only sound is the scratching of the pen nib against the heavy legal paper. Barbara signs her name on the first page, acknowledging the resume fraud. She flips the page. She signs the second section, agreeing to the civil no-contact order. Her signature is erratic, jagged, nothing like the smooth, confident cursive she used to forge my name on credit card applications. She pushes the document toward Savannah. Savannah snatches the pen, eager to comply, desperate to avoid the police. She signs her name hastily on all required lines, her hands trembling so badly the ink smears slightly. Savannah pushes the document back across the table toward me. I pick up the settlement agreement. I review the signatures, ensuring every line is properly executed. I place the document inside the black binder. I snap the metal rings shut. The trap is officially closed, sealed, and legally binding. I look at Barbara. She is staring at the table, her posture slumped, her spirit crushed. You have your freedom, I say quietly, and I have mine. We are done here. I look up at Marcus, who has remained standing near the door, a silent, imposing sentinel throughout the entire exchange. Marcus, I say, my tone reverting to strict corporate instruction. Escort these individuals from the building. Ensure they exit the property immediately. Marcus steps forward, pulling the heavy oak door open. He gestures toward the hallway. Ladies, it is time to leave. Barbara slowly pushes herself up from the chair. She grabs her counterfeit designer tote bag from the floor. Savannah scrambles to her feet, clutching her fake clutch, her face a mask of ruined makeup and profound humiliation. They do not look at me as they walk toward the door. They do not say a word. There are no apologies, no final pleas for forgiveness, no dramatic exits. They are simply leaving the battlefield they lost. I watch them walk out of the boardroom. The sharp clack of their heels is gone, replaced by a defeated, shuffling gait. Marcus follows them down the hardwood hallway. I sit in my chair, tracking their progress on the lobby security feed via my iPad. They walk into the reception area. Jessica is sitting at the marble desk, maintaining her flawless professional posture. Barbara and Savannah walk past her, keeping their heads down, unable to meet the eyes of the receptionist they insulted just 30 minutes prior. The arrogance they carried into the building has been completely eradicated. Marcus escorts them to the elevator bank. He presses the call button. The doors slide open. Barbara and Savannah step inside the metal box. Marcus does not join them. He watches them. If they return to this property, I say through the earpiece communicating with Marcus's security radio, do not engage. Have them arrested immediately for criminal trespassing. Understood, Ms. Montgomery, Marcus replies. The elevator doors slide shut, severing my mother and sister from my world permanently. The visual feed tracks the elevator descending to the ground floor, expelling them into the Atlanta heat. I close the security application on my iPad. I place my hands flat on the mahogany table. The boardroom is quiet again, but the silence feels entirely different now. It does not feel like a cage. It feels like an open sky. The legal threat neutralized the immediate danger, but the true resolution, the psychological closure, requires one final observation. I stand up from the CEO chair, pick up my black binder, and walk toward the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city street below. The final act of poetic justice is about to unfold on the pavement outside my building. The aftermath is profoundly quiet. The heavy oak door of Boardroom A clicks shut, and the click echoes through the vast, empty space. Marcus is gone. Jessica is back at her desk down the hall. The two crystal water glasses sit untouched on the mahogany table, beads of condensation slipping down the sides and pooling onto the stone coasters. I stand alone in the center of the room. I hold the black leather binder in my right hand. The plastic sleeves inside contain the signed confession, the civil no-contact order, and the evidence of federal wire fraud. It is a paper tomb. I built it page by page, receipt by receipt, over the span of 2 years. Now the lid is sealed. I do not feel the urge to celebrate. There is no sudden rush of adrenaline, no desire to shout or break things. I do not feel the hollow, fleeting high of petty revenge. I just feel an overwhelming sense of peace. The air in the room feels lighter. The invisible weight I carried on my shoulders since I was a child, The constant pressure of never being good enough evaporates into the climate-controlled atmosphere. I walk toward the floor-to-ceiling glass wall spanning the far end of the boardroom. The window offers an unobstructed panoramic view of the Buckhead Financial District. Below me, Peachtree Street is a river of slow-moving traffic and pedestrian activity. The sun is high in the sky, beating down on the concrete and asphalt. It is late morning in Georgia. The humidity is already rising, thickening the air, creating visible distortion waves above the hoods of the cars idling at the traffic lights. I stand close to the glass, looking down at the pavement 20 stories below. The automatic sliding doors of the ground floor lobby open. Two small figures emerge onto the sidewalk. Even from this height, I recognize the awkward, defeated posture. Barbara and Savannah step out of the shadows of the building overhang and into the unforgiving glare of the sun. I watch their movements. I expect them to turn left, walking toward the adjacent parking deck or the valet stand where affluent visitors leave their luxury vehicles. That is the routine they have practiced their entire lives. They have always shielded themselves from the elements using climate-controlled leather interiors. They do not turn left. They turn right. They begin walking down the long, exposed stretch of concrete sidewalk. They are navigating away from the parking structures, moving toward the public transit hub at the intersection. The realization settles over me, adding the final, flawless layer of logic to their current situation. Preston discovering the hidden credit card debt did not just cancel a wedding, it triggered a catastrophic financial collapse. The $80,000 venue penalty required immediate capital. Barbara lacked liquid savings. She had to liquidate her only valuable asset to avoid immediate litigation from the event coordinators. She sold her luxury SUV. Savannah fared no better. Her convertible was leased, funded by the illusion of her future marriage. The moment Preston withdrew his financial backing, the lease payments bounced. The repossession agents likely towed it from their driveway days ago. The women who mocked my beat-up Honda Civic, the women who scoffed at the idea of taking public transportation, are now pedestrians. They are entirely stripped of their mobility. I track them as they reach the corner. They stop at a glass transit shelter. The structure offers no real shade, functioning more like a greenhouse baking under the direct solar radiation. I watch my mother lift a hand to her forehead. She wipes a layer of sweat from her brow. Her poorly tailored navy suit traps the heat, suffocating her. Beside her, Savannah shifts her weight from one foot to the other. Her stiletto heels sink slightly into the softening, hot asphalt. She struggles to hold the heavy, counterfeit designer bag, the strap digging into her shoulder. They stand at the bus stop, waiting for public transit, suffocating in the sweltering Georgia heat. The universe possesses a flawless, unyielding memory. 2 years ago, I sat in a metal folding chair on a football field in this exact temperature. I wore a heavy polyester graduation gown, sweating in the sun, searching the bleachers for a mother and a sister who never showed up. I sat in the blistering heat while they lounged in air-conditioned luxury at the Magnolia Retreat, spending money they stole from my future. They chose a trivial spa day over my milestone. They chose comfort over my existence. Now the roles are permanently reversed. I am standing in a refrigerated, multi-million-dollar penthouse suite, wearing a tailored charcoal suit and a steel Rolex. I own the spa they valued more than my graduation. And they are standing on the pavement, sweating through their clothes, waiting for a bus to carry them back to a house they are about to lose. Poetic justice is rarely this precise. It is a closing chord played with perfect pitch. I step back from the glass window. The visual confirms the reality, but I do not need to watch them suffer to feel secure. Their suffering is their own consequence, generated by their own choices. My focus is no longer on them. My focus belongs entirely to the empire I built. I reach into the pocket of my wool trousers. My fingers brush against a cold, hard object. I pull it out and open my palm. A heavy brass key rests against my skin. The teeth are worn smooth. The metal carries the dull shine of age. It is the key Richard Sterling slid across his mahogany desk 2 years ago, the key to the small, dusty Midtown incubator space Aunt Vivian secured for me before she died. I trace the edge of the brass with my thumb. Aunt Vivian knew I would need a war room. She knew I would need a quiet place to construct my escape where Barbara could never find me. Vivian survived the same toxic family dynamic, and she spent her final years ensuring I would not share her fate. She left me the seed money, but more importantly, she left me the strategy. She taught me that loud defiance is useless against a predator. Silence is the only effective weapon. I close my fingers around the key. The metal warms to the temperature of my skin. I look around the vast, luxurious boardroom. I see the polished wood, the ergonomic chairs, the pristine marble. I built this. I took the pain of abandonment, the terror of identity theft, and the humiliation of a ruined credit score, and I forged it into a 7-figure corporate holding firm. I did not let their cruelty turn me into a victim. I used it as raw material. I turn away from the window. I walk toward the heavy oak door. My heels click against the hardwood floor, a steady, confident rhythm. I am leaving Boardroom A. I have a 10 o'clock meeting with a venture capital firm to finalize a new lease acquisition. The business of WM Elite continues, unbothered and uninterrupted. But before I open the door, I pause. I look directly ahead, speaking to the quiet room, but projecting my voice to anyone who needs to hear the truth. If you are sitting in a room right now being told you are worthless by the people who are supposed to protect you, do not yell. Do not argue. Just build. Build your life in the shadows, gather your receipts, and wait. Because the day will come when they walk into your world, and you will be the one holding the pen. There is a profound, echoing silence that follows a story like Willow Montgomery's. When the boardroom doors finally close and the Georgia heat settles over the pavement, we are left not just with the satisfaction of justice served, but with a lingering, uncomfortable question about the foundation of the American family. We spend decades building houses, curating lawns, and capturing smiling holiday portraits, all to project an image of domestic success. But what happens when the architect of that family is the very person tearing it down from the inside? Willow's journey is not just a tale of corporate triumph. It is a cautionary mirror held up to the core values of parenting, family responsibility, and the long-term guidance we owe our children. In our culture, there is immense pressure to cultivate the perfect family image. We see it in the curated social media feeds, the country club memberships, and the relentless pursuit of status. Barbara Montgomery fell victim to this cultural trap, and in doing so, she sacrificed the only currency that actually matters in a home: trust. She looked at her 2 daughters and assigned them roles based on her own fractured ego. Savannah became the golden child, a vessel for Barbara's vanity, while Willow became the scapegoat, the repository for her mother's insecurities. This dynamic highlights a devastating failure in emotional awareness. Genuine parenting requires the capacity to see a child for who they are, not for what they can do for your public image. When Barbara skipped Willow's college graduation for a trivial spa day, she communicated a message that echoed far beyond the empty folding chairs in the stadium. She told her daughter that her milestones, her hard work, and her very existence were secondary to comfort and aesthetics. Yet the tragedy of Barbara's parenting did not end with Willow's pain. By shielding Savannah from the realities of hard work and consequence, Barbara effectively handicapped her favorite child. She funded a lavish lifestyle on stolen credit, teaching Savannah that appearance supersedes integrity and that debt is an acceptable substitute for discipline. When Savannah's acrylic nails snapped in the boardroom, it was not just a piece of plastic breaking. It was the collapse of a fragile, dependent identity built entirely on parental enabling. Fairness in a family does not mean giving children whatever they want. It means equipping them with the resilience to survive a world that will not always cater to them. True family responsibility is rooted in honesty. It is the sacred contract that a home will be a sanctuary, a place where a child's identity and future are protected. When Barbara stole Willow's survival fund and committed federal wire fraud using her Social Security number, she did not just break the law. She shattered the fundamental covenant of motherhood. A parent is supposed to be the shield against the harshness of the world, not the predator hiding in the kitchen. Contrast Barbara's betrayal with the quiet, structural love of Aunt Vivian. Vivian represents the true ideal of long-term parental guidance. She recognized the toxicity of the environment and took concrete steps to ensure Willow's survival. Vivian did not just leave behind a bank account. She left behind a strategy. She locked the trust behind the requirement of a college degree, ensuring Willow developed the discipline required to handle the capital. In her handwritten letter, Vivian offered the kind of hard, honest wisdom that alters the trajectory of a life. She taught Willow how to navigate the reality of her mother's nature without losing her own soul in the process. Aunt Vivian's brass key was more than access to a commercial incubator space. It was the key to autonomy. It was an acknowledgement that sometimes the most profound act of love a guardian can perform is giving a child the tools to build their own fortress. Raising children requires a deep, unflinching commitment to character over comfort. It demands that we model accountability. If we want our children to navigate the complexities of adulthood with grace and strength, we must show them what integrity looks like when the doors are closed and the cameras are off. We must teach them that true wealth is not found in leased luxury cars or designer labels, but in the quiet confidence of knowing you have earned your place in the room. These are the silent battles fought in living rooms and kitchens every day across the country. They are the stories of broken trust, of quiet resilience, and of the profound courage it takes to break a generational cycle of toxicity. If you found yourself nodding along to Willow's journey, if you recognize the sting of an empty chair or the weight of a hard-fought victory in your own life, you are not walking this path alone. There is a community of people who understand the nuance of these scars and the beauty of these triumphs. We invite you to follow Eva Tells Stories. Subscribe to our channel to hear more narratives that explore the deep, complex realities of human relationships. Join us as we navigate the shadows and the light of family, survival, and the pursuit of genuine independence. As the Georgia sun beats down on the pavement and the dust settles on the choices we make, we are left to evaluate our own legacies. Every interaction with the people we are tasked to protect is a brick laid in the foundation of their future. We must ask ourselves what kind of structures we are building. Are we cultivating an environment of honesty where our children feel seen, valued, and prepared for the storms ahead? Or are we quietly constructing cages of expectation, funding illusions that will eventually shatter under the weight of the truth? Look at the empty chairs in your own history. Look at the brass keys you hold in your hand today. The narrative of your family is still being written, and the next chapter depends entirely on the truth you choose to tell.